Probably a day doesn't go by without somebody complaining that uh, how is it that somebody did X and got X penalty, and another person did something substantially worse and got a lesser, more lenient penalty? Well, you've heard me complaining about it on this site. So, we've seen over the past year places like I think Missouri and Oklahoma have talked about chemical castration. Certainly, and the death penalty in Florida it was certainly passed for some of the most egregious crimes, rather. But Idaho has just topped them all because they have said that if you committed a sexual assault against a 12 and under, you must get the death penalty. And apparently it was signed into law. Well, a couple of things to consider. When people are coming up with sentencing guidelines, various sentencing commissions, they wrestle with this and they also know what those definitions mean. So you understand that sexual assault has a lot of different meanings. Assault in general has a number of different meanings. Why I can take my soda and be in an argument with you and splash it in your face, that is assault. Spitting at somebody is assault. Poking them in the chest is assault, depending on their jurisdiction. Sexual assault, well, as I point out in certain places like Kentucky, it used to be that fourth degree rape, which is consensual sex with somebody 12 and under, is not really rape because it's consent. So it doesn't have that violent connotations that we assign. Nevertheless, I'm not condoning any of it, and most of us would think that there should be a very, very stiff penalty. So for those of you who are out there saying, Norm, I don't understand the problem. I mean, surely there should be a very, very stiff penalty. I wonder if you believe that really. And I only say that because while you might think that all these examples that I've shown on my channel and elsewhere are worthy of the worst, the most egregious penalty you can think of, the most severe, you have to wonder that the accusations that you have read about in the Epstein files, which are only 2% of what has actually been revealed, well, they show people having sexual imposition, and I'm being generous with that term, into the single digits down to an 8 or 9-year-old child, usually a girl. You're okay with Idaho's death penalty for 12 and under? What do you think about death penalty for people who did that, who are listed in the Epstein files, some of whom are in the most powerful positions, including presidents of countries? Do you think they ought to get the death penalty? Or do you suddenly make an equivocation, an exception, accuse somebody of projection, accuse somebody of moving the goalpost, or any of the other excuse making that has been done? Are you consistent with that idea that if you want it for somebody in Idaho, you should want it for the same thing in Washington, D.C.?